here we go. Let's do this. I can't help but crack up immediately, but good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another segment of WxCenter Live. We're not necessarily going to call this Tropics Talk because obviously it is Sunday, and this was supposed to be my much-needed day of rest. However, there's quite a bit of things out there that I feel like I don't want to leave a lot of you guys just kind of hanging with, if that makes sense. To get things started off already, I have Storm Prediction Center pulled up right here, and you can see that they just continue to increase the likelihood of us seeing some severe weather across the southeast, which is a huge contrast to what we had been seeing over the last several weeks, talking drought, dry conditions, no rain whatsoever, and it looks like we went from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. So we're going to discuss a little bit about that. We're going to look at some of our high-res model data today. This is going to be more or less kind of like a video where I will brief you guys and take you through some of the finer statistics of what's going on out there, not only in the southeast, but we also, dare I say it, have something else on the National Hurricane Center's homepage, and I'll admit I'm a little upset about this. I'm a little upset. I think Hurricane Center should just go ahead and let the hurricane season die. I feel this is an extremely redundant thing to mark on the hurricane season chart, or I should say the tropical Atlantic chart. They even write in their discussion, proximity of nearby dry air is likely to prevent significant development, and there's literally zilch on any of our charts. Nothing whatsoever to suggest we need to highlight this. And I'm just a little concerned that as we go over the next 24 to 36 hours, there's going to be a lot of suspicions and a lot of folks out there who are just going to gravitate to this, and we're going to see videos popping up everywhere. Tropical development, late season is going to be Vince, and it's like, hurricane season, why did you open up that can of worms again? This is literally the Pandora's box. And last thing I want is people coming at me and other stations who have actually voiced that hurricane season is done, and now coming at us like, see, you were wrong because they highlighted something. Like, we've literally opened up the Pandora's box. I mean, we might as well call Indiana Jones at this point to investigate this because it's freaking like what was the first movie called? You have Temple of Doom. Why can't I think of the Raiders of the Lost Ark? There we go. This is like the Lost Ark right here that we're looking at, that National Hurricane Center has opened. But let's go ahead and say hello to some people. It's only 3:02. We're going to try not to spend as much time as we typically do on our live streams during the week today. I mainly just want to get you guys up to speed on everything. I mean, you look at this. This is our hail outlook, and you see a 15% chance of hail out there for much of eastern Texas, southern Arkansas, kind of like the Texarkana area in Louisiana and Mississippi. So we're looking at some pretty substantial, dangerous weather out there. Like, this is dangerous weather, in my opinion. And that's kind of one of the main reasons I want to go live today, because as that threat increases, we're looking at thousands upon thousands of people in harm's way, especially as the tornado risk goes up. I'm going to show you guys what the ensemble products are showing in terms of the development of this low pressure system that's really going to bring a lot of this, I guess you could say, counteracting energy together, and why it's going to be such a widespread severe event. Like, this is going to be a textbook outbreak, no cap whatsoever, however you want to put it on the table. Definitely going to see some very, very enhanced weather activity from this. Miss Leah, welcome in. Ethan's Life, glad to hear you're enjoying the Thanksgiving break. That is true. You guys are off now, out of school and whatnot. Gartrell, hello there. Welcome in. Good afternoon, my fellow Americans and my fellow Floridians. Woo from the Space Coast, the best from beautiful Volusia County, New Smyrna Beach. Hello there, Brian. Good to see you. Hello, Nazaria. I'm back after some time. Remember me? Weather is very weird. A storm right before Thanksgiving. Of course I remember you. How close are we? I couldn't forget about any of you guys. Welcome back. Good to see you. I just hope that we can get Daniel in here. For those of you who haven't been able to join us over the last several live streams, we haven't seen good old, I believe his name's Daniel Butler, in the chat. And some of us are getting a little concerned, which is why I shouted him out yesterday. That doesn't look fun. Prayers up for all in the storm path. Pray, stay away, tornadoes, stay away. I agree, the unholy cannoli. I like that name, by the way. Nice little pun, little twist right there. Unholy having a storm 3 days before Thanksgiving. Now people have to deal with destruction and rebuilding. Yes, especially when coming, talking tornadoes. This is going to be a very, very dangerous situation for our folks down there. And that's why, for the few who gravitate towards my channel for information, we're going to kind of dissect this over the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. Janice, hello there, dear. Thank you for joining us today. It's good to see you. I hope work is treating you well and you aren't experiencing too many technical difficulties still. They should all just come visit us in Florida for the holiday close. Imagine. All right, we'll let a couple more people join us here in a moment, but this is kind of what I really want to talk about. Because I know on our Friday Night Live, I had mentioned that it could be very interesting to see some of that leftover spin from the extreme southernmost portion of that, I guess you could say, almost continental-wide storm. Let me pull up the infrared or any satellite view for that matter so we can take a look at just how ridiculous this system is. In fact, we're going to need College of DuPage to show us because that's just how big of an AOR we have to cover. Let's go... which one is the best one? Let's go, is it this one? Or no, yeah, it's this one. It's this one. Let me switch over to our water vapor satellite, and look at that. Just look at that thing. That is insane. And when I say continent-wide, that's literally an intercontinental storm at this point, because you have it way up there moving into Greenland at this point, passing the eastern Canadian provinces. We have another low spinning up right in through there, and it is all the way down into Central and South America. Just look at this thing. That is almost looks like a bald eagle. Or actually, yeah, look at that. There's the eye. There's the beak. Almost looks like a phoenix from Harry Potter, for my Harry Potter fans out there. Look at that. It's kind of cool. But wild. Look at how big this thing is. It makes the United States, the country in of itself, look like a baby in size comparison. That's pretty dope, though, actually. Look at that. Yeah, you got the tail feathers down in here. You can kind of make out what looks like a phoenix almost out of that system. Anyways, let's not get sidetracked. We're still dealing with some pretty intense flooding out going on down there in the Dominican Republic, in Haiti especially. Southeastern Jamaica saw a widespread... flood event, especially near to the Kingston area and further to the east and south of that location, because we had those storms coming up out of the south just training and, kind of like a never-ending water cycle going on where they'd rain themselves out, go back up the mountain, rain themselves out, go back up the mountain, and rain themselves out, kind of just tumbling there on the lee of the mountains, or the windward side of the mountains, excuse me. I keep dorking that up because we got to shift the angles. And so they've had some bad flooding. We've had some confirmed deaths and fatalities, unfortunately, in Haiti and Dominican Republic alike. A lot of the coastal flooding and very intense thunderstorm activity has caused issues and caused deaths because for some strange reason, people are still out and about. They're on the roads. I've been watching as many possible videos and looking at all the media coverage surfacing from those areas, and I hear people commenting and mentioning how bad it is and how terrible it is, and I even had a couple people tell me that it sounds like I'm downplaying it, and I'm not downplaying it. It's just a matter of kind of dissecting and digesting exactly or differentiating what is actually going on down there. And the problem is, we're starting to there's so many different sources out there that are putting the same terminology on almost every single weather event down there. And what I think is happening is people are not taking it serious anymore. Either the messages are not being received despite the countless number of pages, National Weather Service sources, the Hurricane Center, the international desks from Weather Prediction Center, other YouTube channels, social media platforms, you name it. There's a lot of people who are documenting this. Some actually going to the extent of saying this is an extreme situation, and others who just simply mention this is something you want to pay attention to. Regardless, there's a lot of folks covering what's happening down there, and it just doesn't seem like people are taking it serious. I've been looking at a lot of videos coming out of Jamaica, and I'm seeing a very, very huge contrast. One end of the spectrum, I have people making videos and putting them online and saying how terrible it is that they're standing in ankle, knee-deep water. And then the other half of the spectrum, people are walking around making videos in the midst of the bad weather, doing their videos, publishing it, and they're laughing. They're riding the water like water slides, and they're out driving around. Like, you got to go one way or the other. In this case, it's almost so difficult to determine if it really was an extreme event, or are these people just putting themselves in bad situations? And I'm not taking away from it at all, but it pains me to see that we now have a death toll associated with this event, but then I see half of the population who are just out enjoying it, and then there's other folks who are genuinely in harm's way because they're outside and kind of just continuing on with their business as if it were an ordinary day. And I respect it. Don't be afraid and cower in fear, but at the same time, recognize what's happening. I mentioned it, I think, yesterday and the day before yesterday. Situational awareness, that's all it takes. In a regular thunderstorm or in a hurricane, situational awareness to kind of get a good idea of where the threats are and have an escape plan. But I digress. we now have this little area of energy highlighted by National Hurricane Center, and I do truly believe we've opened up the Pandora's box. I'm going to be watching social media for the rest of the day today, even though I didn't want to. I wanted to tune this out, but I can't now because I'm going to probably have to, dare I say it, play damage control, because some people are going to be out there saying, we're going to have a tropical storm after all, and I don't want that. I mean, there were still so many people who were projecting a hurricane with that stuff that was moving through the Caribbean, and obviously we know how that manifested itself. So let's take a bit of a closer look. We'll go to our clean long wave IR, and this is the area in question, that area of thunderstorm activity. I'd mentioned in the last couple of segments and in our live stream on Friday that it's going to be very interesting to see as this system pulls out. What's happening is, as it comes up, it's completely twisting. It's pulling up and it's leaving behind an area of spin, low pressure. It's kind of like when you submerge something in a pool of water. And, obviously because it's increasing the surface area, it's increasing the volume in, let's say, for instance, your cup. If I were to drop my mouse in the cup, you notice that the level would rise because there's more mass inside of the full capacity of the cup. If I were to take it out suddenly like that frontal system, removing mass from the atmosphere, there's likely to be a little bit of a spin up, a little bit of a vortice inside of my cup here. Same exact principle that's happening in the atmosphere right now, just in the weather realm. That's why I always hearken back to what I was told during my time in tech school: dynamic fluid continuum. Weather behaves like a fluid. It really does, and that's exactly what's happening down there. Let's see. Oh, yeah, chill and grilling, watching some football, talking some weather. Football Sunday and grilled food. That does sound pretty good, actually, not going to lie. Every Sunday I do ribs, chicken, the works. Very good. I need to have a barbecue in all the nice weather that we've been having. I've been out doing yard work and putzing with the cars this morning. Okay, I'm coming and getting a plate. Ethan's Life, how are you? Making connections, I see you. Just making connections. All right, but yeah, this is what we're looking at. Nothing's going to come of it. Nothing's going to happen. It's just going to push this way once it loses the influence from all this madness that just continues to propagate further into the Atlantic. It's all jet supported. You have the subtropical jet doing this. Another finger of the jet moving in right here, supporting a little baroclinic low that's already spinning up over the Midwest, central and northern plains. And then all this energy right here is what's going to spin up our severe event over Texas and Oklahoma. In fact, let's go ahead and zoom in over there real quick. We'll go continental sectors, and we'll come up here. And there it is, right in through here. This energy that's coming through, all this stuff. You can see the jet getting ready to dig its way down right here, all that fast-moving upper-level cloud cover. As it comes down, it's going to position itself over the southern plains, and it's going to fire off a really, really intense event. In fact, you can kind of already see it beginning to slowly take shape. This is like a preliminary effect of it, if you will. Let's go over to some of our models. So I've been looking at this, and the cape at the surface is not the most aggressive. Like, you look out over here, and the convective available potential energy isn't anything to write home about. We have some stronger areas that are off the coastline trying to surge to the north. But in reality, I've seen situations where we only need about 850 to 1,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, and what that essentially is how much lift there is in the atmosphere. CAPE is your overall, I guess you could say, meteorological measurement of how much just overall lift you have from the surface associated with daytime heating. And as we know, now that a lot of all the bad weather has cleared out, we're just warming up down there. And with that southerly push of tropical moisture coming out of the Caribbean, I almost combined words there, the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico, that is exactly where ground zero is going to be for, I'm going to estimate we're probably going to have somewhere between half dozen to a dozen tornadoes. That's going to be like my preliminary forecast. If we have more, then that's rough. But typically when these systems form up like this, you're looking at about a dozen or so tornadoes that end up popping off. And you can see the supercell composite is off the chain for Louisiana in particular. We could see something near the Beaumont area of Texas, extreme eastern Texas, moving through Louisiana to its entirety, some waterspout action along the Gulf Coast, and then across parts of Mississippi. Keesler Air Force Base is probably going to have to put out a tornado watch and watch real closely. Going to shut down operations here very soon on their flight line. That's the base that I trained out of in southern Mississippi, in Biloxi, Mississippi. And then you come over here to our 12Z Euro, and it goes without saying, you could see it plain as day. Like, look at how intense of a line of activity we're going to have moving across there. And then I'm going to zoom the AOI out a little bit because this is very interesting. I saw this on the GFS a few days ago, and what's wild is now the Euro is calling it and consistently calling it, but we're in for a mess of a storm system. Like, I think we are looking at the first official mother of all El Nino storms over the south. At 48 hours, we have our first storm system that starts to manifest itself. You can see it already starting to take shape. The low is to the north, but as I mentioned, if we come back to where's our satellite? So here's our parent system, and as the jet comes across here, you can kind of already see it beginning to take shape. Right in through here is where we're going to see another round of cyclogenesis. There's a low up there. We already have this chain of frontal energy. We're going to get another low down here. As the jet comes racing across, you can kind of see it right in through here, and that's what's going to help to really ignite our potent and aggressive situation right in through here. I've also been seeing people commenting on my videos that Florida is in for severe weather. I don't know about that. I don't think Florida is going to see the severe weather. All the severe weather is going to be back over the the Gulf Coast, the southeast, and the plains. Florida is going to dodge the bullet. You come back over to the European model, and you can see that a lot of that stuff ends up washing out and continuing towards the mid-Atlantic states, and we're looking at maybe an elevated rain threat down here, but nothing severe. This is what really has my attention, though. So there goes our next storm system just in time for Thanksgiving. This is Friday morning, so Thursday into Friday morning, we have it blowing up over the Gulf of Mexico, raining out against all those people who already are going to have flooding in very intense situations. Very intense conditions, but check this out. Look at this cold plunge that's happening back here. So we have this El Nino system that tracks up like this, that's kind of priming the environment. And look at this cold plunge that's happening right over here. And it's very difficult for you guys to ascertain from where you're probably viewing from, but the pressure gradient right in through here is ridiculous. We have tons of little tiny isobars packed right up against the lee or the front range of the Rockies. That shows how potent of a cold push that is. That's a 1036 bona fide polar, almost Arctic high that's coming down. Because I remember Mr. Castle was in this chat on Friday and mentioned we're going to have part of the northern branch of the jet coming in. And then watch this. Watch as that first system really gets blowing up. We have a huge snow event, freezing rain event for the Northeast. Look at this band of frontal energy that's left behind, already creating some intense activity. And as this high bleeds down to the south and east, take a look at how much return flow we get setting up. Look at this. Dear God, that's going to be a big one. Now this could very well be our severe weather event, not only for the Gulf Coast states once again, but also here in the state of Florida. Because we have a huge, still very strong bona fide, now we'll say a continental polar high just to the lower Great Lakes Midwest region, kind of intruding on the mid-Atlantic states. So all of this high pressure down here, and that's what kind of concerns me, is we have two very distinct air masses here. We have a very, very dense polar high over the lower Great Lakes, Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and then we have a bona fide maritime tropical high. We'll say modified tropical because we've had some cold air kind of go out there, but we know the waters are still hot, and it doesn't only apply for tropics, also applies here. We have a Bermuda high that's going to just be forcing all that tropical air up like this, and then we have all this rotating back out of the northern states, so we're going to have just a mess right in through here, a mess, and you can already see it. And this is the transition between November into December. If you look at the GFS as well, the GFS also has the same situation kind of painted on its charts. Let's go over to tropical tidbits, and we'll go through time. There goes our first severe weather event spanning much of the East Coast. It looks like we could even see severe weather all the way through to the mid-Atlantic states with a little bit of freezing rain embedded in there with that warm sector moving up to the north. Got a lot of cold air damming up against the mountains here. Let's zoom in a little bit so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Textbook cold air damming event. Let's go to eastern United States. Let me see. Can I put on a thickness chart? Do we have 1,000 to 500 thickness anywhere? anywhere. All right, we'll go to temp anomaly and see that. So we have this huge surge of warm air coming up, but look at all this cool air that's still entrenched along the lee of the Appalachians, and that's bad news. That's textbook freezing rain as the warm sector overruns all of that cold air. I bet you 10 to 1 if we were to pull up some SKU-T soundings for that area, whether it be the Carolinas, moving into Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, anywhere of those areas, as that warm sector comes up, there's going to be freezing rain. You can kind of already see it beginning to take shape as that warm sector goes through. Further to the north, but you can see it right here. We're already looking at some freezing rain probabilities going up. And then look at how hellacious of a severe weather event unfolds for the mid-Atlantic states. So I would not be surprised if as we go throughout the next couple of days that, there it is, as a matter of fact. Look at that. It's spreading out already. Already spreading out to the east. And, of course, it kind of misses Florida. We're just going to get a little bit of rain action off of it. But let's go back to our zoomed-out perspective for the whole CONUS, and you take it through time. There goes our next El Nino system. The GFS is thinking it's going to be a little bit further to the south, so that's going to bring in some bad weather for us. And then there's our front-range cold plunge. We have that front setting up, and look at how big of an event that the GFS has happening. There we go. They're like back-to-back lows as we go from November into December. One, big one, that's severe weather for us. And then two, that's severe weather for us. And then another one, that's severe weather for us. And then this is possible severe weather for us. So we are definitely, honestly, like in this case, looking at this by itself, I almost want to make the claim that hurricane season is going to look like a Fisher-Price baby toy for us here in the Southeast with all this aggressive weather activity that's getting ready to pop up. Because that's rough. That's going to be intense. We come down and we take a closer look, and we have multiple low-pressure systems getting ready to come through. There's our first frontal band that's going to kind of ignite or be the catalyst of it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 incoming. So for my storm chasers out there, myself included, we're going to have a lot of work to do. We're definitely going to have a lot of work to do. The unholy cannoli. Let me help you with damage control. We all know that Mother Nature is capable, but the conditions aren't right for a monster hurricane. I agree the season is therefore closed. It doesn't look like much is going to happen, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of dry air out there in the Caribbean. Yes, I agree. Jet supported, maybe the panhandle of Florida is. Yeah, the panhandle could definitely see some of this extension for sure. That Gulf low looks interesting. Absolutely. Stop jinxing us from Florida. Sorry, 27 years here. Leave Thanksgiving alone. Supercell City, I agree. Great live. Look at that thing, Boeing. Oh, yeah. Not really. Those two systems are not going to have the dew points. Oh, yeah. I will lead the debate on that one. I will definitely lead the debate on that one. Let's see. Can we look at... Let's go to our relative humidity, because that's going to be very telling first and foremost. Because look at all that moisture we're going to have just pumping across. Like, this is El Nino in full blast. Like, we've been going back and forth on if El Nino is going to show itself. Is El Nino even happening? No, this is El Nino happening 3,000%. Like Kaioken times 20. Look at all this tropical moisture just getting pumped across the south. Crazy relative humidity amounts. And again, we don't only use that stuff for calculating forecasts in the tropics. Let's see. 2-meter dew point. There you go. There you have it. That's some very, very sharp contrast down. Look at that. That's bad. That's severe weather right there. That's definitely severe weather right there. A consistent severe weather threat for us, because look at how just overall dry and polar we are all through there. Here's our next frontal system, and look at how we're just very aggressively butting up against the different air mass down there. Sharp contrast. So we're definitely going to have the dew points to suggest that the relative humidity is going to be through the roof down here. And because of where that subtropical jet is, if I come over to the upper dynamics and you look, there it is. So we're going to be in that kind of delineation between the subtropical environment and that polar environment, or I should say the continental polar modifying environment that's going to be across much of the United States. This is what I briefed in my video yesterday. Look at how these jets are just going to clash. They're going to be doing all sorts of crazy things. You have the polar front here, up and through here. You have the subtropical jet ridging over top of us, coming in down here. There's going to be an interaction through here, interaction through here, interaction through there, and it's just going to be chaos. Like, it literally is going to be chaos. I think Mother Nature is definitely going to have us very quickly kind of do one of these numbers between the tropics and then over the United States. Like we were all focused in tunnel vision on PTC 22, and the next thing you know, earthquake. Now we're talking severe weather back to back to back in the United States. Let's see. And then we have this here. We can go and spend a little bit of time on this, but let's do a little bit more digesting of what's happening in the southeast. We'll go to the Euro so we can kind of look long range, and we'll use the United States. This is also what has me very concerned is this right here. We already have a low-level jet setting up. Let me use a different color so you guys can see. Low-level jet is already setting itself up, going right up the heart of the country, right through the center of it, in fact. And if you go through time, this is 24 hours out. Look at how intense of return flow we're getting straight up out of the Gulf. That you could honestly snip that, put it in a weather textbook, and promote that as this is why this area is called Tornado Alley, because that's literally verbatim exactly how we set up. You go to 48 hours out and just look at how intense of a delineation we have there. That's even stronger than what I saw yesterday at 12Z. Yeah, see, yesterday at 12Z, it had it coming in and getting strong a little bit later in the run. And then today, it has it getting, look at that, that's really strong low-level jet. Right there, that's all of our severe weather. All of our severe weather right there. So that's not good. That's definitely a huge telling sign. You go to your mid-level humidity, and you track that through, and you could see where a lot of our moisture contrast is going to be right in through here. That's why they have it pinged for severe weather. There's your line between your extremely potent bona fide dry air and all that moisture coming out of the south right there. So I am in full agreement with where SPC has that enhanced risk highlighted on their charts. That's going to be a miserable day in the office for a lot of people over there. Please don't ban me, but it looks like Mother Nature has chosen blank for the holiday season. Honestly, yeah. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say that word out loud because we're live here, but all in all, yeah, you're probably not wrong. I'm definitely very, very curious to see how this shakes out. You go back to 0Z, and it's still there. It's been there for a while. Look at that, blowing up, getting crazy. You go to 12 Zulu the other day, and there it is again, calling for a widespread snow event for much of Texas. You go back to 12Z the day before, and it's still there, getting ready to take shape. Look at all that snow event. Like, it's going to get pretty crazy for a lot of folks in the Deep South. We're literally going to go from one end of the spectrum to the other. From no rain, from severe drought, from what felt like a desert most of the summer and most of the fall is going to completely turn upside down, and this is going to be intense. That's going to be a bad setup for them, big time. Lots of flooding, and we have hail, convective winds. We're probably going to have a tremendous amount of outflow going on out there as well to just further enhance what we feel at the surface in terms of our convective winds. And then you throw tornadoes into it, and you just have a mixed bag of, dare I say it, dangerous, life-threatening conditions. You know, it goes without saying. This is the stuff you really want to pay close attention to. This is the type of stuff that you really want to kind of, quote, hype a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and let's see if our probabilities are in for the South. There we go. This is why I wanted to do the live stream when I did, so we can get our probabilities in. So, I mean, you can kind of see a little bit of probabilities down there in the Caribbean, and I did mention that our shear is actually going to be kind of favorable for a little while, but way too much dry air. Way too much dry air, and that thing's just going to push west and completely disappear. And then after that, there's nothing on our charts, nothing whatsoever. In fact, I'm honestly more astonished that we're highlighting something down there as opposed to up here. I honestly thought we were going to have something, look at that. I honestly thought we were maybe going to have a little yellow blip sneak in with that low pressure we're expecting to push towards the Azores Islands up there. Because if you go to the GFS once again, and you switch AOIs and go to tropical Atlantic, or North Atlantic, we'll just go to the North Atlantic, go to mean sea level pressure and precip. Look at this. That's not attached to fronts. So that could definitely be a tropical system right here forming up. And look at that. Now, at this point, it's picked up fronts. You can see occlusion, warm, and then cold. Now it's frontal, but early on, that's not associated with any fronts. So very interesting. This was, honestly, what I thought was just going to come in and steal the show when we were going to maybe get a tropical storm Vince. Because look at that. It breaks off from that frontal chain. It loses the fronts, and it kind of just becomes its own little separate entity out there. I think the Euro actually has the same thing as well. Breaks off from our frontal band and turns into its own little bona fide system out there by itself, and then impacts the Azores. So I'm more threatened to tell National Hurricane Center, why are you not highlighting that as opposed to whatever the heck you guys are looking at in the Caribbean? Like, you just wanted to reignite the hype train, didn't you? Because we'll go down there even just using tropical tidbits. And look at that. There's nothing with it. What are you guys highlighting for? What are you doing? There's a little low vortice. That's it. There's nothing down there. You could honestly argue it's still attached to whatever this thing is. Like, why would you even do that? Why would you want to re-excite the tropical community into just trying to fear-monger what's going on down there? And then look at the end of the run here. Look at that. That's going to be a massive system. This guy right in through here. Why? That's severe weather part 2 or part 3 possibly for the very end of November, November 29th. So as we turn the calendar into December, we're going to be ringing that in with possible severe weather for here in Florida and across the Gulf Coast states. Let's go back over to our ensembles, though, and see if there's anything out there that would suggest that whatever the heck that thing is worth even mentioning. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Here we go. Oh, my, are you kidding? Look at that. 1,005, greater than 1,005 millibars. We have a few little ensemble members that highlight it, and then it just disappears by the 60-hour mark. So in 3 days, that thing's going to be gone. How so close she wants it, blah, 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 frozen in the northwest, dry in the middle, and repeated for 6 weeks. Jesus, okay. Anyways. So, I'm going to keep an eye on all sorts of different social media platforms and see what shakes out of that. This has my full attention, though, what's going on over the south and the southeast. There's our Euros depiction of our Thanksgiving event. It looks like we could definitely dodge the bullet on the actual Thanksgiving holiday. This is Thanksgiving Thursday. So looking like we're going to have another round of possible severe weather for the Gulf Coast states. And then as we go into Black Friday, that's when Florida's going to get their taste of it. And it continues to accelerate up the coast and then makes way for our next couple of systems. There was one in here that got washed out, and then here's our next big ol' one that's just going to follow that same trajectory like the previous two. Yes, Brian, I absolutely agree. This situation definitely warrants a lot more high visibility. A lot more high visibility. Let's go over to the NAM. There's Monday. That's tomorrow. Well, this is overnight Monday into Monday morning. Look at all that bad weather. All that bad weather. And, actually, the NAM does have a little separate vortice forming up, trying to bring some enhanced weather for us. I don't think it'll be severe, but we could see some good thunderstorms out of it, according to the NAM model. Let's go to the 12-kilometer NAM. Go down to the southeast. Yeah, look at that. You can see how the storms are forming up and all that instability coming right out of the south in that environmental flow. You track it through time, you take the loop through time, and you can see it just bubbling up, brewing up. And then we lose the loop. Let me see what the HRRR shows. This is the 19th. I want the 18th. We can go out much further in time. HRRR. That's a lot of supercell action right there. And yeah, it looks like the HRRR kind of wants it to make its way into the Panhandle and possibly closer to our neck of the woods here in Florida. You can see a lot of that return flow is still going on in the isobars here. So we still have that fuel, that energy for severe action as this stuff comes across, because this is going to be a very intense frontal line right there. You can draw that from 1,000 miles away. You can draw that with your eyes closed almost. Let's go to, let's see, what do we have here? What do we have? Dew point is still very strong, very sharp contrast. You got mid-40s back behind it, and you got almost pushing into the 70s over the Panhandle in Central Florida. So that's going to be ridiculous. Let's go to the WRF. Yep, WRF is calling for even more of a prominent line in our dew point temps. Yep, that's definitely going to be a big event. This is going to be our first major severe event of the fall-winter season. And you just look at that low-level wind flow. That's the scary part about it. You have 60, 70 knots up here, and we're approaching, there's some 50 wind barbs down in through here, so that's going to be a lot of mixing. Let's go over to College of DuPage. They have some pretty wonderful overlays I'd like to look at for severe weather specifically. First and foremost, let's go to the SHREF. SHREF is good for looking at your overall buoyancy. Oh, yeah, look at that. So that's your 500. These are the ensembles for how much buoyancy we're going to have out there. Let's go to 1,000 joules, greater than 1,000 joules per kilo. Yep, so right along the coastline, we're going to have the potential for reaching that 1,000 joule per kilogram threshold. 2,000 Cape, nah, not too much. So we're going to bottom out somewhere between 1,000 and 1,100, or 1,200, I should say, excuse me. Let's go down to the Nam Nest, and we'll go to the southeast. And let's look at some of their convective products. So let's go to the helicity swath and see what that looks like. Yeah, look, so that's where most of your tornadic activity is going to be, according to the Nam Nest, the 4-kilometer Nam right there. So if anything, I might suggest, well, I wouldn't suggest, obviously, I'm not in touch with them, but they might want to raise this up just a little bit, perhaps redraw that area of orange right through here. Bring it up a little bit. That'd be my recommendation, just looking at where our ensemble helicity model is. Let's go to our supercell composite. Look at that. Okay, now that lines up perfectly with where they have that drawn. That is off the charts. It takes a lot to see something that crazy. Sig torn parameters, probably off the chart as well. Yep, look at that. That is tornado outbreak central for sure. Do all El Nino systems start in the Gulf? Not necessarily always. That's a telltale sign that you have a strong El Nino in place, but you could have a lot of low-latitude scrapers is what I'll call them. We have the Alberta Clippers to the north with the polar front jet. I'll call these our low-latitude scrapers, or low-latitude clippers for that matter. Let's go to the, we'll do a different sector view. Can I go to the United States? No, it doesn't look like it on this model. We'll go to the NAM, and we'll do continental U.S., and we'll do 250 millibar wind speed. So if you look, it's a little difficult to see here because we're merging systems. Like this right in through here, that's a shared energy region between our two jets. I'll use yellow so you can... Actually, nope, that's not going to work. Let me use white so you can see it. Here's our polar front jet right in through here. There's the northern branch of the jet. So this is where our Arctic air is. You can't see that. Here's our Arctic air right there. Here's our polar air through here. And then here's our subtropical air right through here. All this is subtropical air. And that's exactly why we have such a severe weather event getting ready to take place, because we have these three different fronts. That's why it's called polar front, subtropical, jet. Subtropical is the difference between the subtropical air or the actual bona fide tropical air. And then the not so, during the summertime, for example, you don't have too much of that polar air. So you have like just the modified continental tropical air. And then up there we have our very, very low level, shallow Arctic air. And I bet you if we were to switch over to 500 millibars, because you got to look a little bit lower than that to find, there it is. Yeah, look at that. So there's our Arctic jet. Jeez, that's crazy. That's what's going to create a lot of this severe weather. Wow. This tells a lot. This is very telling. That's your Arctic jet right there. Here's our polar front jet, and then some of the remnants of the subtropical jet. Usually you can't see the subtropical jet at 500 millibars because you got to go way up in the atmosphere. It's the kind of the same concept as with rubber. In hot weather, rubber, like tires, expand, and then in cold weather, obviously it shrinks, plastic shrinks. Same concept here when looking at the different jet levels. Obviously, since subtropical or tropical air is going to be warmer, it's going to be more expansive. You have to look way high in the atmosphere to find your jet. But then polar air, obviously, is a little colder, so it's going to be a little more shallow. And then your Arctic air, your bona fide Arctic air and your Arctic jet, or the northern branch of the jet, is going to be very shallow. So you have to go even lower than that to try to find it. So this is extremely telling of why we're going to have that setting up. But to answer your question, they can kind of originate. Let me clear this out a little bit, or let me pull up a map instead. Let's not do that. I don't want the actual maps. We'll just go ahead and use this least amount of color. Let's see if you guys can see that okay. I'll let it populate on my screen so then I can show you. No, actually, yes. Unholy cannoli, that's a great idea. If you have folks either traveling in or traveling out of there around that time, because this is going to be the bulk of holiday travel, definitely, this is one time I'm going to say this. You might want to step on that or just stay in place. What's the date and time frame on that model? Which one exactly? I'm sorry, I didn't see that question. Maybe if the Northwest gets more certain about the event and intensifies in a miles overnight, we can see a 15% hatched. Natasha, I agree. Actually, that's a great call. We'll probably continue to see it elevate because that's going to be a bona fide severe event. But anyways, how close are we to answer your question? Since we have the subtropical jet usually running through down in this general area, our lower branch of the jet, we'll call it, running through there, we could see our El Nino systems form up in any of this general region. So like right now, for example, that really, really southern Texas low, as we'll call it, forming up through here and giving us severe weather, you could attribute that to the polar front jet, or you can kind of make a case that this is because of our El Nino setup. More than likely, El Nino is contributing to the amount of severe weather we're going to have with that low-level jet. But a lot of the time, yeah, you'll see most of our stuff form up around Texas area, maybe over northern Mexico, and then just scoot out across like this. And that's why the southeast, the Gulf Coast, and Florida sees a lot of severe weather, because we have that jet just running over top of us pretty much all winter time long. And then your polar front's doing something like this up over the northern tier states. I hope that answers your question. Let's see what that situation looks like on the European model. Sea level pressure and precip. Go through and, oh yeah, that's wild. That's going to be a crazy event. I want to see if that holds true or not. There's another severe event possibly right there. Then there's another severe event. Oh, no, that's the severe event. That's the one that we're tracking right now. Or no, actually, excuse me. This is the one we're tracking right now. There's another severe event possibly for the Thanksgiving holiday for the Gulf Coast moving into Florida. Let's go to the southeast so we can see. Brenda, hello there. Thank you for joining us from the Virgin Islands. There's the first one, here comes the second one, and then there goes the third one, and then the fourth one blooming in the background right there. So we're going to have 4 consecutive systems, possible severe. It's a little far out to make the determination of if we're going to have severe parameters or dynamics in play, but you can already see in the span of, today's the 19th of November, this is the 29th of November, we're looking to have 4 systems blast through here. Like I said, this is probably going to make what we saw in the mainland U.S., and for most of the AOR for that matter, this is going to make hurricane season seem like it was this big in comparison to this. Especially for our folks in Texas, eastward through maybe Alabama, and maybe even possibly the Panhandle in Georgia. They're going to have to really pay close attention to their weather updates, because this could be tornado event after tornado event, strong wind event after strong wind event. It's going to be very intense. So yes, if anybody watching this now or afterward, we only have very few people in here, that's fine. That's why I figured I'd go live today as opposed to doing a full-fledged video. It's easier to communicate and talk to you guys. Big thing, big takeaway here, because we're getting right into the bulk of holiday travel. If you have friends, family alike, anywhere in the southeast, or in Florida for that matter, or if they're flying in to areas like that, definitely look at making some adjustments to your travel plans or your itinerary. And especially if you have loved ones and family who are going to be riding out the storms, celebrating Thanksgiving as this all goes on. This is Thanksgiving night right here. That's 0Z. There's 21Z. There's 0Z. Stop moving around. There we go. Nope. Wait. There it is. I got it. This is 0Z, 8 p.m., or I should say now 7 p.m., Thanksgiving night. So we could possibly be seeing more severe weather for parts of Louisiana and Mississippi. And then even before that, with this system unfolding, as we get ready to start traveling for the holidays, we'll zoom out and we'll kind of get a better perspective on this. Right here. Let's go forward in time. This is going to be with this whole area, and this is a huge area of influence. All of that you see unfolding there, travel delays out the yin-yang or up the yin-yang, travel delays, cancellations. Because another thing that a lot of folks don't brief when they're talking about severe weather hazards like this, especially during a time like holidays, that's also going to bring in moderate to severe, if not extreme turbulence in the upper levels where you have your planes flying. You're going to have a tremendous amount of icing going on as well, let alone the freezing, the severe clear ice that's going to probably collect on aircraft if they are flying through this. So this is going to be a disaster in of itself. And when I say disaster, I mean just like it's going to create a lot of havoc for many, many people. I don't know how close are we. We just looked at all of our dew point temps, and it definitely seems like it could be another rerun of what we have taken shape over here. Let's take a look. Let's go down there, and let's try to do a little bit of a brief analysis before we close out the live stream. Because from what I can see, this is our first event. Here comes our second event for Florida. So we already have really good wind shear in the mid-levels and all the way up to the upper levels. Look at how we have those wind barbs turning clockwise. Or they could they're turning clockwise with height. So there's some rotation and some shear down there for us here on Friday night into Saturday. Let's go over to the Euro if it has the same out. Nope, they don't have the same overlays, unfortunately. Let's go back over here then. We'll use this. Use United States. We'll use United States there. Do they have Cape? Here we go. So there's our first event. Here comes our second event. So, I mean, the Cape definitely is down a little bit. But because we have this, where are we? That's height. Where's our vorticity? I want our vorticity chart. All right, we're going to have to go back to this location or this website. Here we go. So that's one thing that I was very, very well taught in the Air Force. You got to know how to bounce back and forth between certain parameters. During the summertime, where we're looking at mainly just daytime heating, tapping into instability in the low levels and the moisture that we have present, you can look at surface dynamics, what we have going on down in the low levels, lean on your cape, lean on your wind shear, lean on your moisture, and kind of just look from the ground up to make a determination of how severe a weather event could be. At this point in the year, the non-convective season, as we like to call it, this is where you have to start looking in the upper levels and take a look at how strong of a setup we have down there at 500 millibars as we go through Thanksgiving into Friday and then into Saturday. Look at that very, very strong area of jet level winds, which is why I do believe we're under the gun for another severe event somewhere down there just based on the dynamics that we have in play. Because you can see that there's a little bit of a cold pocket broken off there. Let me go to our 850 millibar temp anomaly. Yep, there it is. So see, we have a cold pocket moving through that area. So that's going to definitely help to really create some chaos in our environmental pattern. And that's why I think that there is still a threat for severe as we go through Thanksgiving. And then that next system as it comes through right there. Look at that's going to be a genuine. There's no arguing that for certain. Let's use some of the things or some of the models that folks don't typically use on this website. I've seen a few of them, and they're going to come in handy for this time now. Maybe they're on the GFS. Let's see. Are they on the GFS? Here we go. So I don't ever usually see people bring this up. This is probably the first time you're ever looking at this. But this is a good combination of everything we need to forecast severe weather. Like, for example, look at this right here. That's going to be all of your upper level divergence. Let's see, what kind of parameters do we have on here? All right, I'm probably going to lose you if I start to explain this, but essentially this is a culmination of everything that's happening in the upper levels all the way down to the lower levels. Essentially, you could call this like the mixing of the environment and the conflict, if you will, that's happening in the weather sphere as to why we have such bad weather unfolding. And you can see as that stuff moves through, we get another round of it. Here's that next system that I was telling you about, and that looks just as intense. You have your upward vertical motion right in through here, and then your downward vertical motion. So this is what I was mentioning a little bit ago. You want to look in the upper levels for sure when forecasting for severe events. That's a strong shortwave trough right there. And if you go over to, I bet you 10 to 1 if we were to look at the GFS as well. Yeah, look at that big ball of vorticity right there moving through. And then here comes our next big old system. That's a giant cutoff low that they're predicting for the south of California, Baja California. So that's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Very wicked setup that we have going on. Oh, they do have advection charts on here. Okay, very good. I thought they didn't have advection charts. This is awesome. I was just talking about this on our Friday Night Tropics talk. I didn't think that they had temperature advection on here because this is a very useful tool as well. You can see all that really good warm air advection occurring through here during our first severe weather event, and then that bona fide cold air advection coming down with those very strong low-level winds forcing it. So you have very good rotational, I guess you can have a very good rotational component to your winds. You can see strong winds coming out of the south, strong winds coming out of the north, and I mean, you can kind of see the motion I'm making with my hands. That's going to get everything spinning. These updrafts are going to be very violent in nature, so this is going to be a storm chaser's dream right in through there over the next couple of days. And then if you go through to our next event, right about, let's see, let me not lose it. Right about there. So the temperature discontinuity and the advection is not going to be as intense. I do see that. But if we were to come over to our dew point temperatures, do we have dew point on here? It doesn't look like it. Maybe over here. There we go. If you come over the dew points look just as rough. At least on the GFS, it's a little bit more south than what the Euro is calling for. I think the Euro has it. No, we lose it. They don't have dew point temp on the European model. What a shame. Precipitable water is looking very good for us down here in Florida as that system unfolds. Are we going to have another low-level jet setting up? Yeah, look at that. Another little, so like I was saying a little earlier, I mean, it's not going to be as strong. You're definitely right on that part. If you're still listening, how close are we? If you're still listening, it won't be as intense. You're right on that part, but here comes our next little very aggressive system. So right in through here, we could possibly see some very isolated instances of severe weather as this system transitions through. Maybe not as potent of a, quote, outbreak as we're going to see here very soon, but yeah, look at that. And even along the mid-Atlantic states, as it really gets going right there, that could be another round of severe weather and a good snowmaker for the Northeast, pulling all that cold air down. Look at this upper latitude rider. There you have it. There's a bona fide Arctic supported system right there. So yeah, we're definitely going into wintertime. We're definitely starting to see a winter-like pattern slowly but surely panning out. Because the 540 line, your polar line, is right in through here. There's your 540 thickness line. Here's your 528 line right there. So you can make a case that the 540 line is where you start really getting into your polar air, because that's typically the delineation of where you see your rain turn to snow. The 540 line is an excellent reference to use when forecasting for rain or snow during this time of year. The 528 line is typically where you have a lot of people mention, like, that is your bona fide polar air. Like, you could get, that's as polar as you could get. That's where your freezing temperatures are going to be. But look at this. We have a 504 thickness up there over central Canada, moving towards James Bay and into Ontario out of, what is that, either Alberta or Manitoba up there. And then you have the 560. Where's the 518 line? Here's the 518 line right here. This is where you start to transition into your Arctic air. And then just for future reference, just for an idea, you can see that we still have a lot of subtropical air or tropical air down there because here's your 570 line right in through here. So look at the competing air masses we have. That's wild. That's crazy. At least from a meteorological standpoint, look at how many different air masses we have colliding all at once. We have Arctic, we have polar, you can say we have modified MP air, modified polar air, we have more modified continental polar air, and then we have tropical air down here. This is probably a conglomeration of modified tropical air as well. So just look at how many fronts and how many frontal systems we have going on across the board here. So here's your subtropical jet where that 570 line typically indicates where the STJ is flowing. And actually, you know what? We're going to do a test here. Let's see if I'm out to lunch or if I actually know what I'm talking about. So let's see. So here's I'm going to draw the 570 line. The 570 line is right in through here. So anywhere in this general area, let's see, guys, this is going to be a test live if I actually know what I'm talking about or if I'm just BSing you guys. So anywhere in here is probably where we're going to see really, really strong subtropical winds where I have all of this drawn right there. Right there. Now I'm going to leave this on the same chart. Let's go to 250 millibars. There you go. There you have it. And then this right here, this is all shared energy. That's all shared energy. But there's your subtropical jet, and you can see it. You can definitely see the split flow happening right there from your subtropical jet, and then there's your polar front jet right there. Polar front's probably coming down like this. There's our Arctic jet. Remember what I told you guys a couple minutes ago, how you got to look lower in the atmosphere for your Arctic jet because it's more shallow? Notice how weak the winds are right there. They're coming out at about maybe 70 to 80 knots. Watch this. We're going to do another little layer of magic. So if you remember, I'd mentioned the whole rubber or plastic metaphor. During the hot weather, plastic and rubber expands. During cold weather, plastic or rubber shrinks. Just like with your polar versus your Arctic jet, the polar jet is going to be higher in the atmosphere because it's warmer relatively than your Arctic jet. You got to look around 500 millibars to find your Arctic jet. So watch right in through here. I'll highlight it again for you guys. We'll go to class one more time and then we'll end the stream. But there's your Arctic jet. It looks very weak at 250 millibars because it's so shallow. But if I were to come down to 500 millibars, see how much stronger the winds get? This is your 500 millibar vort, but notice how strong your winds get. Now we're approaching 100 knots of wind at this level. And then there's your subtropical jet still lining up really well with where I have my little line drawn right here. And then there's your polar front jet fueling all these short waves. So really cool when it all comes together. Really, it's really nice when you can explain it like this. This is why I like non-convective season just as much as hurricane season. But all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up the stream. Lots of stuff, a lot of big stuff. Like, look at this thing. That's the first one. Look at all that vorticity coming down like a little whip. And that's actually pretty cool to see, too, at 500 millibars. That whiplash, that whoosh, is what's going to bring down that next system. Look at all this breaking away from the northern branch, coming across the south. There goes our next system. This is the one that's going to bring us severe weather over the next few days. Give me my pen, thank you. This is the first one that's bringing a lot of severe weather, but then look at this bad boy marinating down there over northern Mexico, just to the south of our border. And as that kind of rotates in and out, there's our next system coming in. That's getting spun up by the subtropical jet. That's getting spun up. And then here comes our next system that's going to come down over the four corners, work its way down to the south. There it is. There goes our next one. That's the big one right there, too. So cool stuff. Very good. I like when it all comes together and I can explain it, and then we have perfect examples to kind of help communicate it to you guys so you can see exactly what's happening. It's not a matter of, well, NHC said or National Weather Service said. No, you can actually put it together and layer it. That's why I'm such a huge advocate when I make my videos. I know a lot of the time we're just communicating to the weather to the general public. They don't really want to know, though this is what's happening here. And if you look at this, a lot of folks don't really care about that, but it's what I live for. It's what I love. I've always wanted to teach weather. It was my goal to be a weather instructor before leaving the Air Force. And unfortunately, that just never happened. I was never given the chance. I'd applied for it again and again and again, and it just never came through. So I guess you can kind of say my videos are a blend of educating and teaching while also communicating what it is that's happening. And it's so awesome when you could paint the picture from where we live on the ground level all the way up to the troposphere, the tropopause, the top of the atmosphere. Well, not the top of the atmosphere, the top of the weather-making atmosphere, and paint a wonderful picture and create art out of weather. That's where it gets fun. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get closing out the stream. Let's go down into the tropics real quick just to see what... Oh yeah, look at that pipsqueak. I'm very disappointed that we even highlighted that. So at the start of the stream, I mentioned that look at how this is going to pull out. This line of vorticity is going to pull out. No pun intended, because I know we've had some things mentioned in the stream. It's going to pull out of the Caribbean. And then there's what's left of that little tiny thing that National Hurricane Center has highlighted. A little bit more spin at 850, but doesn't really do much. And then look at how it peters out. Very quickly peters out. So it looks like it could be another little rainmaker for down there in Central America. Yeah, a little bit of extra rain down there. I swear, if I start seeing people mentioning this going towards Central America and they start saying the exact same thing for everything that's been happening down there, oh my God, dangerous, extreme light, like, well, look out. I'm going to come on here and rant again because that, like, you can clearly see that that's just going to be a little remnant feature that's going to wander through there. It's going to be a very short-lived event, nothing crazy. I bet you 10 to 1 if we go over to our accumulation chart. It's not going to be anything to write home about. Let's see. Let me just double-check before I go putting my foot in my mouth. Messed that up. Let's go down here. Central America, Caribbean. Where's our total precip? Here we go. Total precip. So you go through time and, yep. So this is well after that system goes through. So there's, let me see, when was it anticipated to move through there? So there it is right there. So at about Thursday, Friday, and then by Saturday, it's pretty much gone. So let's see what the Euro is thinking in terms of accumulation. So there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So there's Thursday, Friday into Saturday. So yeah, maybe at the most, and this is not even from that system. If you guys look, that's already thunderstorm activity happening because of the Pacific monsoonal trough over Panama and Nicaragua and Costa Rica down there. So that's not associated with it. Nicaragua looks like they'll maybe see along the coast in total 2 inches of rain from it. And that's barely squeaking in there. I mean, like that's also attributed to their daytime thunderstorms that they have going on down there, period, because of the time of year. So that's why I flipped. I almost wanted to throw my dang phone in the air when I saw that earlier, that National Hurricane Center went ahead and highlighted something for the fun of it. Like at this point, I think it was just for the fun of it. They even wrote in the discussion that it's likely not to develop, but blah, blah, blah. Let's all do a little experiment right now. Let's go to YouTube and see if there's any videos coming out to hype it. Nope, not yet. Not yet. Nothing in the hype sphere just yet. We are talking tornadoes, though. That's pretty good. And then here's another one of the... here's another video out of the... I've had some people commenting from the Dominican Republic. This is serious. These were the storms that were just kind of situated along the south side of the island that really weren't doing anything. But you see what I mean? Like, why are you outside during this? What are you guys doing in your cars? Like, why are you even driving through this? Look, why? Why, though? Why are you outside? Like, look, that's terrible. Why would you even put your car in a position for it to get washed away like this? Look at that. That's so scary. That's what happens in those areas, because what's also happening too that a lot of us tend to forget is because you have the high terrain features, as those thunderstorms kind of park themselves over your general area, you also have the rainfall falling over the mountains and coming down in kind of like a river like this, because you have all that heavy rain up to the north, not the north, but in the higher elevations, just running down like almost waterfalls if you have enough of it happening. And that's how you end up with situations like this. And it's horrible. Look at that, the roads getting picked up. Like, I truly hope that, nope, that's a person right there. That's a person right there. These cars look like they're not inhabited. Those cars don't look like they're in use, which is good. That's going to happen. When you have water rushing like this, that's going to happen. But for the folks out there who are driving around in this, Why are you doing that? Either you didn't get the memo or you just wanted to go, like, look, this person, who is that? That might be an official vehicle right there. So that makes sense. That looks like an official vehicle. Like, look, what are you doing? Why? Why would you? Are you serious? Delivering that was a Domino's bike. Did you guys see that? Look, watch. Look at the little Domino's thing right there. Like, what is this? Why are you... No, this is why you... And this is exactly what I meant by you're putting yourself in a bad situation. Like, who... And first of all, I really hope this is just homie trying to get home and not somebody actually ordered pizza during this event and had poor guy out here trying to deliver their stuff in torrential floods. Like, oh, God, I don't want to get fired from my job. I got to get this pizza delivery in one way or another. Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, yes... This is a dangerous situation. Look at the flooding that's obviously going on. But this is exactly why you don't go out in the middle of it and make it a life-threatening situation. Like, that's my biggest gripe with when... I hope that you guys are understanding me now, too. For the folks out there who maybe made it sound like I made it sound like I was downplaying this, I'm not downplaying the severity of this situation at all. But what I'm saying is... Don't attach the words like extreme, dangerous, life-threatening to every situation. Because in floods like this, for example, homie here on his bike, that's totally avoidable. That is 100% avoidable and not dangerous at all. You're making it dangerous by going outside and riding around in it. That's where it gets dangerous. Now, you flip the script and you look at Hurricane Otis. Now, that is a system, and I know I keep bringing that up. I'll use a different example. We'll use Hurricane Ian from last year. Now, that is a storm where I would promote this is life-threatening, this is dangerous on every level. Because, see, in this situation right here where I have the video paused, this dude could very well easily have called in or, stayed home or just decided I'm not going to go deliver anything that day, and it's no threat to his life. Now, if you put this same dude on his bike in the middle of Hurricane Ian, no matter where he is, that's threatening to his life. No matter where you are in a Hurricane Ian, that's when it gets dangerous. Like, for example, like I used the example the other day. If I were to take all of us in the chat and put us in that rain situation, the flood threat, we would know, like, stay out of high water, stay out of rising water, stay off the road, stay out of your vehicle, and we'd be safe, we'd be fine. We'd be able to take shelter. If you take us in the same group of people in the chat and put us head on with Hurricane Ian or Hurricane Charlie on the beach, you're not surviving that. You're not going to survive that, no matter what you do. That's why they have the evacuations. That's why you just get out of the way. You don't want to ride a storm out. There's a certain point where you just can't ride a storm out. It's too dangerous. Those are the ones where you will see, God forbid it happens next hurricane season, those are the ones where you'll see me using, this is dangerous. You need to run. You need to evacuate. Please take those evacuations seriously, because after a certain threshold, you can't do anything about it. And that's why I wish we would stop hyperbolizing every storm to that extent, because putting that same kind of terminology in a situation like this tells me that if I were to stand outside in that water, I'm dead instantly. And that's not the case. It could be disastrous and dangerous if you allow it to be. Granted, the mudslides and the landslides are different. That's different. That's unpredictable. That could happen in the blink of an eye. That's a totally different element. But I digress. That's kind of where I'm trying to draw the levels of the thresholds. And you'll never see me mentioning, all sorts of verbiage to bring my views up with a situation like this. Am I going to communicate that it could be very bad, it could be lethal in the right circumstance? I will, and I have. I'm not going to make the whole event seem like you're dead one way or another. Sorry, peace out. I'm not going to do that. People lack common sense. Who wants flooded mud water flavored for real? It doesn't have to be a life-threatening situation if you don't make... Exactly. How close? Exactly. It doesn't have to be. And there's levels to it. If you saw, this is one of my favorite videos to watch. I love this video. Let's see. Where is it? Is it going to pop up right here? See, now this right here, what you guys are watching, now that is a life-threatening situation no matter how you cut it. Look at that. Look at those winds. That's why homie is trying to hold on for dear life. Look at this. Now that right there is a life-threatening situation all across the board. No matter what you do, if you're inside of this, that is dangerous. Look at all the debris flying through the air. Look at those winds. That's easily 100 to 120 mile an hour winds right there. That's going to kill you. No matter where you are, if you're in your car, if you're in your house, if you're on the beach, if you're inland, that's going to kill you if you decide to just stay out there in the middle of that. That is a life-threatening situation, and you can't escape that. That's why they want you to evacuate. And that's why it bothers me. It pains me from a weather standpoint, from a safety standpoint, that we want to make situations exactly the same as this as an ordinary thunderstorm. Like, that's scary. I know for certain, as much as I'll say it out loud, I know as much as I love severe weather and I love chasing storms and I love hurricanes, that would terrify me. If I was sitting out there for the sake of a video, I would definitely, I'm not going to communicate it, but my heart would be going. I'd be like, I could die in the middle of this. Like, look at this stuff flying in the air. Like, that is, no. And that's why I mentioned what I did with this flood event in Jamaica and Cuba and all that. That's why I kept saying we have good news, because we didn't have that going on. A lot of folks were hyping the GFS. That's a Category 4 right there. If that had happened, that's definitely a bad situation. You would have thought to leave the island. Look at that. Like that. I watch videos like this, and this is why I get so passionate about trying to communicate people or trying to tell people accurate information. Like, there's a difference between could be dangerous and is dangerous. Again, apples to oranges. All weather comes in different shapes and sizes, and it's a matter of how you handle it. But after a certain point, there is no handling it. Like, there's no way in heck you could tell me, yeah, I rode this out, it was fine, nothing happened, hype. Like, no, what? Are you... if that's the case, I'm going to quit YouTube and all that if you thought that this or anything hurricane-like was hype. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and end the stream now. That is just insane. Low-key, though, if we do have a storm like this coming through next year, whether it be Florida or somewhere nearby, you best believe that WxCenter is going to have every little bit of equipment that he can to provide 24/7 coverage, whether it be in the storm or here in the WxCenter physically. I'm definitely going to have you guys up to date every step of the way, because that's something I learned during Hurricane Tammy this year. Hurricane Tammy, when she was going through the Lesser Antilles, there was nobody out there providing that continuous coverage. There was nobody out there. And I remember I wasn't on YouTube for Hurricane Ian, but I was up every hour on the hour watching everything. And I know for certain that if I had a hotspot or a puck or whatever you guys call it out here, I'm not familiar with that. I'm sorry. I'm only used to hardwired or Wi-Fi internet. But if I have the accessibility to stay on the air and to stay live and, try to cover as much of a bad storm like this as possible, I'm going to do it. I'll lose a lot of sleep trying to make sure that everybody who still has access to the internet can tune in to my live coverage of whatever severe event is happening. The same thing with what's going to happen in the Gulf Coast. I'll probably go live for that as well. If we have tornadoes popping up every other day, I'll probably go, or every other day, every other minute, I'm going to go live for that as well. So that's also coming next year for sure. If we have really bad hurricanes, you can guarantee that WxCenter Nazario is going to try to be on live stream as long as possible. Even if we lose power here, I will stay on the air with you guys until the power goes out. If you see this cut out all of a sudden, don't panic. I'm likely okay, but I will definitely stay on the stream as long as I can. I'll have energy drinks for days just ready to go. This is strawberry lemonade, by the way. I wasn't drinking caffeine, but you know what I mean. That's the goal for the channel, because I noticed there were so many people out of the Lesser Antilles, out of the Virgin Islands, like Brenda, folks from Puerto Rico who didn't have a whole lot of coverage to lean on. They had maybe a video or two from people on YouTube and social media, but no one was there providing them with that minute-by-minute, play-by-play coverage. And that's exactly what I want to do with this channel. I would love that, to be in touch with you guys as we all ride the storm out collectively. I think that would not only be very fun, but it would also be very relieving to a lot of people to be like, okay, we have a source here providing us with the information that we need. We can take a little bit of a deep breath because we know what's happening. We don't have to kind of just take our chances and see what kind of hand we're dealt. So for those of you watching now, for those of you who tune into this live stream later, that's exactly what I have in store for the severe weather that's coming very soon. I want to try to give you guys as much of a play-by-play as possible. And for the next hurricane season, God forbid it's worse than this one, and we have more major storms landfalling, I'm going to stay on the air as long as I can to try to be there for you guys digitally and in spirit. Because there's nothing scarier than riding out a storm like this, or any kind of severe event for that matter, and not having somebody who has your back. And that's, I think, what meteorology is all about. You got to have the people's back. You're the subject matter expert. They're going to come to you with questions and want answers. And if you're not available when it matters most, then what are you even doing, you know? Do you remember the hurricane that set on Bahamas for a long time with them? Yeah, that was Dorian. Yep, Travis, that was Dorian. Dorian for sure. Jim Cantori wouldn't care. Yeah, right. Actually, he did. During Ian, he did care. There were a lot of times where he had to take breaks. I was watching the coverage a week or two ago, and there were times where he was hit by debris, and he had to get out of harm's way. He couldn't just stay on the air. So that goes to show how intense some of these situations can be. Thank you, Naz, for yet another amazing quality live stream kit with amazing work in progress. Thank you very much, Miss Leah. That means so much. Thank you for your dedication and weather knowledge. You're very welcome, Zenful. Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to go ahead and close out the live stream. I know that this was longer than I anticipated. There was a lot to talk about, but I will leave you guys with the satellite imagery. There you have it. Don't worry about what's happening in the Caribbean for my folks down there. Please don't worry. I'm a little astonished that National Hurricane Center went as far as to highlight that as opposed to what we discussed earlier in the stream that could happen in the Atlantic close to the Azores. If anything, I think that has a greater chance of spinning up into something than that thing down in the Caribbean. This is going to be our main area to watch. This right here is going to be our main event, first main event. This is going to be numero uno of our severe weather. And then we have the freight train coming across like this. So it's going to be a very exciting winter season, both good and in a bad way, or in a bad sense. So we'll see what happens, because there's our subtropical jet right here, all that transverse banding and the high-level cloud cover. It is alive and ready to go. So thank you all for watching. If you have any questions or comments you'd like to know or you'd like to chat about, please leave them in the comments section of this video or my most recent video segment, and I'll definitely get back to you at my earliest convenience. I'm probably going to take the rest of the day and kind of just cool off from weather and prepare for tomorrow and my next full string of Weather Center segments, which in that case leads me next into, we'll see you tomorrow for our 6 p.m. Weather Center segment. And our Tropics Talk, our official Tropics Talk, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. This week is a holiday week, so we'll be a little modified. I probably on Thursday and Friday, because I'm going to be traveling with family, I'll likely end up shooting videos early in the morning, so forgive me if the content in those videos is a little lopsided, a little, I guess, latent, a little late, or early, I should say. Thursday and Friday for sure. I'm probably going to have to film my video before we head out. I'll be bringing my camera equipment with me. I'll have all of the stuff I need. I'll be bringing my mic. Well, my spare mic, I have it. It's off the camera right here. I'll be bringing my spare mic with me, my camera, bringing it, packing it into my carrying case, and I'll be traveling with it, so this way I can still provide the videos. Might not go live. Let me see. Friday night we'll probably won't have a live because I'll be still out with family, but we'll have video segments throughout the week. We'll do our Monday and Wednesday talks, and might even go live on Tuesday, depending on what's happening out there, because I know Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, is when we're going to really see a lot of that stuff amp up. This is November 19th into the 20th, right? Am I correct? Yeah, Monday into Tuesday. So Monday into Tuesday. So Tuesday will probably still go live in the evening after my segment. Let's see. So there's Monday into Tuesday morning. There's Tuesday night. Yeah, so we'll still have some pretty intense weather activity going on somewhere. So we'll probably go live again on Tuesday to kind of supplement Friday. Friday is high school football. No travel for me. Understood. On tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow we'll be on. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian, for joining in for sure. So yeah, guys, that's kind of our battle rhythm, if you will, for this upcoming week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will be business as usual. Thursday, it'll probably be a very, very premature filmed segment. I'll probably film before I take off from the Weather Center. So it'll probably be a lot of old information, but because we're looking at more non-convective stuff as opposed to tropical or in the blink of an eye thunderstorms, it won't really matter too much. It'll still be kind of the same information. I don't anticipate we're going to transition that heavily between the morning and the evening time. Especially since that first severe weather event will be kind of out of the area, and we'll see what happens on Thursday morning into Friday morning with that next system spinning in, that next El Nino low. So I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to do my best this week to keep you guys covered down, and we'll talk. We'll continue to do what we can until Thursday, Friday. But I do also hope that you guys are making your plans for Thanksgiving and getting ready to really take in the full festivities and have some fun, even in between the bad weather, because we got to enjoy them while we can. They're only once a year, and you never know if God's going to grant us an extra year. So you got to take it for what it is, and that's exactly what I anticipate to do as I get older. Lord willing, I have many more years to come. So severe event coverage tomorrow. Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna be covering tomorrow night. In fact, I may even rename it. We might not even have a tropics talk, just so we can focus on what's happening over the southeast. And honestly, I'm still upset about this. I'm not really upset. That's a waste of energy, but I'm just, why? What was the point? We're probably not going to see it go over 10%, and it's probably going to go down to 0% in a day or two. So I don't understand why they even did this, because I'm telling you right now, we're probably going to see more coverage popping up about a new area highlighted and whatnot, and it's just, no, there's no need for that. No need. This is something that could have just stayed dead. It could have stayed asleep. We didn't need to highlight something else. There's no formation going on down there, and it really doesn't even look like a whole lot on satellite imagery. Look at that. Yeah, from the start to the finish of the stream, it already lost a lot of its gusto. Look at that. We started the stream, and it was looking good, and now it's already fading out at the end of the stream. So yeah, so, that's going to be our battle rhythm as we go over the next couple of days. We really want to watch what's all going to transpire from here and down, like so. All that stuff is going to be worth monitoring, especially with our jet coming in from here and our jet coming in from there and all of that return flow coming up out of the tropics. So this is going to be our ground zero for much of winter time, I feel like. We're going to have some strong winter systems moving across the north, especially for the northeast and the Great Lakes, but that's going to be probably where we spend a large majority of our wintertime videos here in the Weather Center, kind of talking severe weather up there, or down there. Up there when talking about tropics, down there when talking about the U.S. Frame of reference. But all right, guys. Let's go ahead and end up, because I got to start getting ready to make dinner and enjoy the rest of the Sunday before it's back to another but abbreviated work week. Why does NHC highlight things that have no chance at? I don't know. I don't know why they did that. There was no point in that. They could have just wrote it in a discussion that, hey, by the way, there's a little low there that's going to die in a couple days. I don't know why they highlighted it to make a big deal out of it. It doesn't even look like Colombia or Venezuela is seeing a whole lot of action from it either. They have more just garden variety thunderstorm firing off the mountain chain down there. So I wish I could tell you, buddy. I don't know why they highlighted it. Very silly. But yeah. All right, guys, we're going to end the stream. If not, I'm going to go talking for another 50, 20 minutes. So thank you all for joining in. Thank you for taking some time out of your Sunday afternoon to join me for this random off-the-cuff Weather Center Live. We'll see you again tomorrow for our 6 p.m. Weather Center segment, and then we'll be going live at 8 p.m. to start talking about what exactly is going on over the Gulf Coast and exploring how far to the east that could possibly continue to transpire. I definitely think that this area and the mid-Atlantic states are under the gun for some really active weather over the next few days. And now we're going to have to try to talk and see if Florida's going to get a little bit of the action as well. We'll see. Right now, preliminary look at the models doesn't show a whole lot for us. Maybe just some increased rain, but to be determined. We'll see. We'll really dig into our high-res model data like these guys. This is where these are going to come in handy big time. So thanks again, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you tomorrow. This is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.